Hey guys, what's up? So I'm here to finish the WTF is Lucifer part 2 that I promised y'all, whatever. Before I get into it, like, comment, subscribe, and the Cash App is below for, those of you that want to donate to the channel. So this week's chain giveaway goes to Ronessa Bailey. I picked her name out of the comments. She comments on the videos a lot. So Ronessa, I'm going to post it tomorrow on Instagram. So follow me on Instagram and slide in my DM so I can, know where to send your necklace to. So let's get into WTF is Lucifer Part 2, right? So if you view WTF is Lucifer Part 1, then you know that Lucifer is associated with the planet Venus. So Lucifer is the planet Venus. If you have not viewed the WTF Satan video, you need to go back and view that so you can clearly know that we're talking about two different celestial beings, and two different energies, two different incarnations, and things of that nature. So you can be on track with the videos, because I don't have time and I can't, I can't reteach everything over and over again, every video. So you got to stay up with the videos, because I'm going to be moving on. I'm going to be building from one video to the next. And certain things I won't keep repeating, especially if I know I put it in another video. I'll expect you kind of just to be up on it. All right, so as I explained, like I said, Lucifer is the planet Venus, and WTF is Lucifer Part 1, right? So Lucifer is the planet Venus. You're going to see me looking down a little because I do have my notes in front of me, right? So Lucifer is the planet Venus. And as I explained, the godhood is shared. So it's passed along. So it works the same with the energies of Lucifer, right? So the Luciferian hood is passed along. So in this video, we will cover like different incarnates of what people perceive to have been Luciferian energies, right? So let's look at the very first version of what you would perceive to be Lucifer, right? It's found in the Enuma Elish, the great dragon Tiamat, right? This is the very first version of Luciferian energy. She's considered the great dragon. Okay, I'm just going to give you a rundown of the Enuma Elish because I know not everybody read it. So in the Enuma Elish, Tiamat, she exists first. Then she creates her husband, right? After she creates her husband, then she goes on to create the other gods, what are perceived to be her sons at the time, because she has already created her husband first, right? So the husband, as the sons come into their consciousness, her husband decides that, they are they cramping his style a little bit. They making too much noise. They doing too much. They taking a piece of paradise. He wasn't ready to share that paradise, right? So they kind of develop a strenuous relationship, right? And you see this manifest into 3D reality, with the mama's boy, daddy's girl type of thing. So, because, he had a strenuous relationship with the boys, Tiamat being their creator, the first creator and mother, when he decided to, when he mentioned to her, right, to get rid of some of them, she didn't want to, right? This is the first act of rebellion, right? That they don't tell you what this act of rebellion really was about, right? She didn't want to. She did not want to destroy her creations, right? That was the first act of rebellion that patriarchy considered, Luciferian, right? Against their agenda, so it's considered Luciferian. That's what you have to understand. So once that happened, like I said, the relationship grew more strenuous between her husband and the children that she created. Once they were full consciousness, they were no longer children. They were more of a threat to him, right? The relationship grew strenuous and they went to war. The children killed the husband, right? And Tiamat became very upset, as she should have been, because they killed her husband. Instead of her taking now one of them up next as her husband or her partner to sit on the throne with, she created another one. And his name was King Tu. This is what enraged them, because one of them felt as though they should have been next in line to be, to sit on the throne beside Tiamat. This enraged them. They went to war with King Tu and Tiamat all together. So they went to war with the Creator. So the creation went to war with the Creator, right? They went to war with King Tu. So they killed King Tu first, and they killed Tiamat next, right? Not really, we're gonna say entrapped, because you know that you cannot kill that type of energy. You can only contain chaos and then try to make order out of it. So you can only trap it and contain it and then try to control it. So once they trap, contain, and control that energy, okay, now this is the part you have to understand. The energy of King Tu was what they used to create third dimension matter, right? The dust from King Tu. So the same dust that they describe in dirt in Genesis 2, is the same dust and dirt that they use to, that's what is considered King Tu. That's why when you reach the highest status in the land, they call you what? A king, right? Because they got this from the so-called God that they sacrificed to make these bodies up in third dimension, the 666s, right? The 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons that makes up our bodies, right? So this is what this is that you see them doing. When they say, oh, you've reached the highest status in the land, you're a king now, right? Black is king, Jesus is king, right? So take me to the king. That's why everything is about the king, because of the God that they call King Tu, that was sacrificed to make the body in the third dimension. Okay, so as this, so this is the first incarnation, or first first physical aspect of Lucifer, right? That you see attached to something that they have, that's something that they have given life to in third dimension, if that makes sense, right? So, and when you get to Tiamat, right? Now, Tiamat is known as, like I said, she was known as the mother of all dragons. She was described as the glistening one. Now, you remember in part 1 of WTF is Lucifer, right? Lucifer is described as the shiny one, the glistening one, the serpent or the dragon. All of these same names that they refer to, and same descriptions that they refer to Tiamat as, right? Tiamat is also referred to as Leviathan. Now, you remember in part 1, I told you that Leviathan meant fallen female angel, right? And it also states in the Bible that Leviathan is referring to Lucifer, right? So once you connect all of this, then you know that this Leviathan is this great mother of dragon, right? That they considered fallen, right? Because she went against the first rule, the first thing, and you know, because she rebelled against patriarchy when he wanted her to destroy her children, right? She said no. So that was the first rule. I mean, not the first rule, the first rebellion, right? So and then as she fled, right, when all of this went on, as she fled and went on the run from Marduk and them that were, you know, chasing her down to have war with her, right? And that's funny because on the run, right? On the run. You heard of that, right? The on the run tour. So, okay. So, the second incarnation, and this is not in any order, this is just, you know, but the second incarnation we would perceive to be Luciferian energy would be the goddess Kali the Destroyer, right? Because she stood on the head of her husband, right? Every time you see Kali, her husband is under her foot, right? And she got the heads of all of these men around her neck, right? So let's get into Kali, right? So Kali was known as she who is black, right? So this represents chaos energy, right? She is who black. She is who is black, right? And she who is deaf, and her origins are traced back to the glorifications of the goddess in the 6th century CE, right? So this is before Christ, before Christianity, and all of those type of things, right? Kali is normally shown, like I said, with a necklace made of skulls from her enemies, mostly men, right? And she's known to have danced on her husband Shiva grave. Notice Kali's creation is said to have came from the goddess Pravati, right? That shed her dark skin representing her lower self, right? And her lower self became Kali. So once again, it's the fallen energy that if you incarnate in 3D, you're automatically considered either the devil because you have descended to live, so that makes you evil, right? Live and evil is the same word front and backwards. I covered that. You put the D on it because you descended to live. That makes you a devil, right? When you ascend to live, right, that makes you alive, right? Ascended to your crown, right? So Pravati, when she sheds her dark energy, that's known to have incarnated as Kali, right? Her lower self. Now, Kali, right? Let's say, notice Pravati is also known as the wife of Shiva, right? But the benevolent, good goddess, right? But against Shiva's will, she creates their son Ganesha, right? So once again, you see this same storyline, right? Against the man's will, she creates these children. She has these children. And you have to realize in a God and goddess aspect, right? When it's just the divine feminine and the divine masculine together, right? And the goddess decides to split and bring in a divine offspring. It's still only one goddess, right? In that situation. So with that being the one goddess in that situation, the masculine energy will always rival against one another, right? So that's a big part of the problem, because the masculine energy that's into more consciousness, as the other masculine energies arise to consciousness, right? They are more concerned with if he is he gonna want to sit on my throne, right? Because right now I'm the king, and now he's coming up and he's going to want to be the king, and that's a problem, right? So within that, you're trying to get this goddess to destroy this consciousness before it rises, so it's no threat to you. And she's not willing to do that because that consciousness is not a threat to her, right? So now that's your problem. But because she won't help you with your problem, now she's Luciferian, right? No. So, okay, so she created Gashna against their will, right? So keep in mind that the Gnostics describe Sophia, right? Sophia, but really meaning soul fire, right? Sophia, the Holy Ghost, as creating her own and being considered wicked for it, right? Because they say that Sophia created what they call Beelzebub, right? That she went and created something on her own, and it was against the will of, you know, her divine counterpart, because she had offspring, right? Because women could create on their own. So once we went somewhere and created something on our own, and it didn't have your DNA in a, I guess in a spiritual sense, it would be, it didn't have part of your consciousness in it, then it becomes a threat to you, because it's not programmed for your best interest, if that makes sense, right? It's just chaotic consciousness, and it's going to spiral in a Fibonacci sequence through the universe, right? You can't control it. So from the beginning of time, you had to realize that the masculine energy has always wanted to have control, right? So when she went and she created Sophia, right? Sophia, what they call a Holy Ghost, Shekinah glory, right? And this is why you will see her fall from heaven down to 3D with her creation, because she did not want to destroy her creation, right? So in Judaism, you hear the term Yahweh and Asherah, right? So we're going to get into that, because with all of this creation against, the divine masculine's will, we would just guess, right? If you were here on earth, right? Because right now we're talking about in energies and spiritual realms, but just think, if you were here on earth, right, and you did all of this stuff against your husband, well, eventually a breakup will come, right? So the breakup comes. Okay, so in Judaism, you hear the term Yahweh and his Asherah, right? So, and you hear that throughout the Bible. Is a lot of things. Let me see here. You got Judges 3:7-1. You got Kings 15:13-1. You got Kings 18:19-2. Kings 21:7-2. Kings 23:4-7. And Corinthians 15:16, right? Where they're referring to Yahweh and his Asherah, or things that can be decoded down to Yahweh and his Asherah, right? So with that being said, when you think about Asherah, right? So you want to get down to who is this Asherah. So Asherah poles were outside of Solomon's temple, right? And Yahweh's temple. Also, according to ancientorigins.net, right? And cuneiform texts found in northern Syria refer to Yahweh and Asherah worship as early as 12th century BC, right? So this is way before Christ, right? Asherah is mentioned in the early Hebrew Bible over 40 times, right? So understand that the ruling elite constructed what we know as the Bible today, right? The basic instructions before leaving Earth. The biblical writers creating patriarchy simply remarry her and turn her into Lucifer, right? They remarried her to so-called Satan and turned her into Lucifer, right? When they wanted to bring in patriarchy at its full force, right? They had to get rid of, you can't have patriarchy at its full force and say that God has a counterpart, right? You can't say that it's a divine feminine and patriarchy remain at its full force. So this is why this was done. So when in fact the verse in Deuteronomy 33:30, right? I'm sorry, 33:2-3, right? I apologize, y'all. Stated that Yahweh came forth from Mount Sinai and shone forth at his right hand, his Asherah, right? So that states that in the beginning, right? In the beginning, when before any energies incarnated or touched this planet or this realm, right? when he was the great I am that shone forth, like in the very beginning, he shone forth with his goddess, right? Something happened along the way to separate this union, right? The Godhead. So, once again, right, the right hand of God, Venus accompanying him up, accompanying him down. We're going to keep in mind that we are still talking about the planet Venus, right? Okay, so a moot in the halls of Ma'at, Lucifer at the side of Jehovah, right? All of this. Venus going up, Venus coming down at the side every time. So when the elite get a hold of it and change it, so they changed it to the Lord came forth from Mount Sinai and showed forth from his mountain, right? He came with myriads and holy ones, right? So myriads and holy ones. Now let's see what myriads means. A countless or extremely great number, right? So if this one God came forth, right, and came down with countless numbers of others, right, what made him the boss, right? What made him the boss? What made him the one supreme being, right? When it states in, the beginning of Genesis, let us. So you know that it was more than one, right? And so many other things, like in the Bible, he say, you turning on me, you turning to other gods. So you know that it was more than one, right? Which makes this one the boss, right? It was just simply a rewrite that made this one the boss. It doesn't mean that this one is the boss, right? If you're gonna look at it in that perception. So the elite wanting to push patriarchy, renamed the goddess, placed her at the foot as the serpent, and crowned the patriarch the king, right? The male god. Which at the time, since you were doing Jewish aspects of things, it ended up being Yahweh, Jehovah, right? Which I know is the planet Jupiter, right? Jehovah, Jupiter. So we'll get into that later. That will be a different video, right? So let's see. So Judges 3:7-31 states, the Lord was angry at the Israelites for turning to Baal and Asherah, right? So now you see Asherah with Baal. So what happened, right? What happened? It took her from Yahweh, and now she's with Baal, right? So Kings 15:13 says he disposed his grandmother as queen mother because she made an image of Asherah for worship, right? So this is what the king did. He disposed his grandmother as queen mother because she was making images of Asherah. So Asherah was very affluent, right? She had a lot of people that worshipped her. So what happened, right? So, 2 Kings states that it says, and King Hosea removed the high places, smashed the sacred stones, and cut down what? Asherah poles, right? Remember in my WAP breakdown, I told you that stripping is a form of Asherah veneration, right? Like I said, when I knew they was paying homage to the planet Venus, and certain symbolism and stuff like that, doing the song, the video making that I saw, and I explained to you guys. And you see, when they made the video, what did they have? They had all those serpents in there and stuff, like I told you from the beginning, that they were paying homage to the goddess, right? Let's see. So okay, so that would be Asherah veneration. So, okay. Then after that, he broke the bronze snake that Moses made into pieces because the Israelites burnt incense to it, right? So, bronze, once again, right? Skin of bronze, the serpent, the goddess, right? How I told you, She accompanies the God up and she accompanies the God down. So you will hear the same descriptions for them, right? Because in certain aspects they become what you call twin flames, divine masculine and divine feminine. So that's why you see the Leviathan part in the female fallen angel part, and you see the Behemoth part in the male fallen angel aspect, right? That's why you see the Jesus referring to himself as the day star, but then you see them referring to Lucifer as the day star, because one represents the sun, which is the masculine aspect of what you would call the Godhead, and one represents the divine feminine, right? The goddess, which represents the feminine part of what you would call the Godhead, right? Venus. So the sun and Venus makes the divine feminine and divine masculine of the Godhead, right? Planetary energies and alignments. Now, when you come down, when it trickles down to 3D, what you have to realize is that each and every one of us harness these energies inside of us. We can go either way. We can be divine, well, not we can go either way. Women, we harness the divine masculine energy, the divine feminine energy. Men harness the divine masculine energy. When we come together, we create a Godhead on this planet, right? As the planets do. And then as the incarnates of what we perceive to be the gods do. So it's nothing that does not happen in the stars that does not happen on earth, right? As above, so below. So when you get into that, right? So now let's think. Moses, right? Because it's the bronze snake. So Moses, right, when he led the so-called Hebrews, and I'm going to say so-called Hebrews because it's a big thing about that. So I'll do a video on that later also. When he led the so-called Hebrews out of bondage, right, his weapon was what? A rod that turned into a serpent, a goddess, right? So now they call the bronze snake Nehutin, right? Nehushtan. Now, Nehushtan equals copper bronze serpent that God gave Moses for protection, right? So he gave him a goddess to do these miracles, all of the things that people perceive as witchcraft or alchemy or just occult activity, period. God gave Moses, right, this goddess to perform these activities. So, and Nehutin comes from the word Nehoshat, right? According to the definitions, right? Definitions.net, freebase, right? In the Torah, it means fiery serpent that cures, right? So if you think about fiery serpent that cures, think about the medicine symbol, right? The medicine symbol. What do they have around it? A serpent, right? Serpents. So you see the symbolism everywhere, and you are taught to believe that it's Luciferian or that Luciferian is evil, but this is just the feminine nature. This is feminine nature. Is and feminine nature is healing and nurturing, and that is why they had the same symbol in the medical field, right? To heal you and nurture you. Feminine energy is protective. This is why God gave Moses a serpent, to cure and protect and to get them out of Egypt, right? These are the things that you have to break down for yourself and not just go somewhere and sit and let them tell you, this is wicked, that's wicked, you're gonna hell. Like, no, pay attention. Like, break it down, make sense of this stuff, right? So this is why, like I said, you see the symbol of the magical staff. Okay, so back to Moses and Aaron, right? Because Moses had a brother named Aaron. So Exodus indicates that Moses had a Nahash, right? And his brother Aaron was armed with a tannin, right? Now, tannin, according to BibleHub.com, right, and Strong's Concordance, tannin means serpent, dragon, sea monster, right? So both of them went in there to do the work of what you perceive to be God, but both of them was with serpents. Why? If the serpent was so bad, so wicked, so evil, and so what they call luciferian, right? They was armed with serpents though, right? So both of them went in there armed with serpents to break the bondage. Now think about this. To break the bondage of slavery, they went in armed with serpents. So if you're looking for something to break your bondage and come save you, it tell you right in your Bible what they was armed with. So, okay, now let's look at other names for tannin, and one of the other terminologies for tannin is phineas. Okay, right, like the show Phineas and Ferb. So, according to BehindTheName.com, it means Nubian oracle, right? Phineas and Ferb. So now you know that tannin also means Nubian, right? Nubian, of melanated descent, black, right? And oracle means, you know, you can see into the future, you can see into different dimensions. You can clearly see spirituality and things that other people can't. You can decode stuff like that, right? Oracle. Okay, so according to the Abarim/publications.com, the etymology of Phineas comes from, let me get to my notes. Phineas comes from the Egyptian word Pinahasi, meaning the Negro and the bronze-colored one. Right? So, when they sent them in there to do God's work, they sent them armed with the bronze-colored Negro, right? Luciferian energy, though. But I'm breaking this down to you so you can understand. When they saying Luciferian energy to you, they talking about the black woman. Okay? This is what I want y'all to understand. You harness the most energy from the planet Venus. This is why your hair naturally spirals in Fibonacci sequence. It's an antenna, right? So you notice, like, if you wet your hair, if you don't put any type of edge control, any type of conditioner, any type of anything, right, it will just spiral if you let it dry, right? That is why. So, so Nahash and tannin, right? So Nahash equals intuitive knowledge, what makes magic happen. Another name for tannin is, guess what? Messiah, right? Refuge of the Lord. So you put all this together, right? And it equals the Negro salvation, because Messiah means seek refuge, right? Equals salvation, right? The Negro salvation is within the serpent. So, and the reason why the Negro salvation is in the serpent, because once you go through the decoding of it, you realize that the divine masculine and the divine feminine together form the Godhead, right? This is the Luciferian energy that they don't want you to understand. They don't want you to know how to operate this, right? They cast you, they separated, right? They cast Lucifer down to so-called hell, right? And they keep the God up in so-called heaven, right? This is the Christianity model of it, right? A broken family, right? And with that being said, as a collective, that does not work for us as melanated people. This is not the vibration that we can rise to our crowns on. We can't rise to our crowns on divine feminine and divine masculine and no unity, right? We got to understand that it's a spiritual thing, and I know I keep saying it as if it's just about I don't want to make you think it's just about a relationship or being with somebody or being married. It's not about that. It's really about a split and godhood, right? And the energy's not being balanced. If that makes bigger sense. Let me see. So, according to answers in Genesis.org, tannin is also used when referring to dinosaurs, right? So now we're really going back, because we remember that when we learned in history, the so-called dinosaurs were here and had run the planet before so-called humans, right? The humans we see created in Genesis 2, right? Humans taken up from the dust, and woman snatched from a man's rib, which is a way different creation from Genesis part 1, right? So this is how you know that it's two different creations. Your job is to figure out which one are you. So, and I'm not going to tell you which one you are, but I will give you enough clues to help you decide. Okay, so with that being said, okay, tannin is referred to as dinosaurs, right? So let's think. The Negro salvation, right, is referred to as dinosaurs already, right? So the dinosaur era, probably, if you wanted to decode that right, was when the what they call the Dark Ages, or when they call primeval, primordial. Whenever you hear those type of words, they're talking about you, chaos energy. Whenever melanated beings ruled the entire planet, at that point, I don't even think there were any non-melanated beings that in existence. Okay, so dinosaurs, right, is a relatively new word made famous in 1841 by British scientist Sir Richard Owen, right? Prior to his coining of the term dinosaur, the word used was dragon. So this goes back to the original great dragon, mother of all dragons, Tiamat, right? So this is how you have to realize is a change in words. That's why you always do the etymology. You break down word for word for word. Sometimes you got to even go past the definition. Go past this definition. Okay, what did this word come from? The etymology of this word, the etymology of that word, till you get to either the bottom of things or the top of things, however you want to look at it, right? But when you break it down and you realize that they just changed the word to dinosaur in 1841, you know it's a cover-up. What are you hiding, right? So once again, to keep patriarchy in control, they will never, ever, ever let you know it was a time when it was all females that roamed this planet, right? Of any type of being, whether they refer to us as great dragons or dinosaurs or whatever. It was a time when we did it, right? Without them. And that's the time that they don't, that's the time that they considered savage. Everybody was savage. Everybody was luciferian, chaotic. They didn't know anything about God. Yeah, it's because patriarchy wasn't in control, okay? So, all right, now, which brings us back to, like I said, the very first dragon, Tiamat. Okay, so according to answers in Genesis.com, the word dinosaurs refers to a broad range of reptilian, right? So dragons and reptilians. Okay, now when you get to the reptilian, right, reptilian part, now when you're first conceived, right, the first 3 months of your conception in your mother's womb, or what they call the reptilian stage, right? It's two things that we all are when we're first conceived. we're all reptilian and we're all female, right? And this is how you get things broken down scientifically when you pay attention, because if we're all female and we're all reptilian when we're first conceived, right, this standard of human conception has to come from somewhere, right? Where does the standard of human conception come from, right? The great dragon, the mother of all. That's why they call her the mother of all dragons, because regardless of your ending development, no matter what you come out to be, meaning later on you may switch over and that X may become deformed and it may become a Y, because a Y is just a deformed X, right? A X has both pieces. A Y, whichever way. A Y just has one, right? The other edge is broke off, right? It's deformed. So whether you stay a strong X or whether you become deformed, you still, your beginning still was a reptilian female, right? The great dragon. This is where everything comes back to. This is the stuff they don't want you to know, right? This is why it's considered Lucifer, right? Luciferian. Okay, so when you break down reptilian, then you go to, what do they refer to as reptilian, right? Anunnaki, the Anunnaki serpent, right? Anunnaki, and that goes to, then you short it, right? Anunnaki, Anunnaka, Naga, serpent, Naga, which is the reason why they call you a nigga, right? So you gotta understand what's going on down here. And you know that's true because it goes back to what it all boils down to, the word tannin and Messiah and Nahash and all of that breaking down to the Negro salvation, right? So this would, like, you know, in so many codes and symbolism and astronomy and astrology and planetary alignments, this is what they're trying to get you to in 2020 see clearly, right? That your salvation and other people's salvation is not the same road. You don't particularly need the fix that they need. I'm gonna put that like that because the video already kind of long and I don't have time to get into that. But okay, so now remember the cartoon Phineas and Ferb, right? Now that's the code Phineas and Ferb, right? So Phineas equals the Negro bronze one, right? Tannin meaning serpent and dragon, right? So according to names.org, Ferb means God among men personified. So if you just decode the title of that show, it means the great Negro bronze one, God among men personified. Meaning bronze ones, black ones that walk the earth, you're gods among men, right? Personified. You have to rise to your crown. You got to do your work. Now, you can relate this to back to the statement in the Bible when Jesus said, ye are gods, right? But ye will die like men until ye realize ye are gods, right? So, and that okay, so let's see. Another form of Lucifer incarnation is Lilith, right? And that was Adam's first wife. A lot of people don't know Eve was not Adam's first wife, right? So, okay, so Notre Dame's cathedral in Paris has a statue depicting the three of them together, right? Adam, Eve, and Lilith, right? Before Lilith took off. Before Lilith said, the hell with this, I'm out of here, right? I guess they was hanging together. I don't know. But so Notre Dame has a statue of all three of them together. Notre Dame's cathedral in Paris, right? And according to the alphabet of Ben Sirach, right? in the history.com collection, well, historycollection.com, and the Darby Bible, and the Talmud, and many other sources, Lilith was Adam's first wife, right? But Lilith refused to surrender. Not surrender, submit. I'm sorry. I know it's not a war, y'all. But Lilith refused to submit, right? And the two began to fight. So, what was Lilith's deal? Why didn't she want to submit, right? So she didn't want to submit to him, stating she was greater energy than he was, right? The symbolism is that she refused to submit to him, and they fight, and she decides she's not for it, and she flies off, right? So you notice she has wings and can fly, and Adam can't, right? So, which probably supports her claim that she was of stronger energy than him, and she was not going to submit, right? Because she was probably cosmic Etherian energy. She was cosmic Etherian energy. They told you about his creation, right? They never told you about her creation. Why? Because she was one of the ones in Genesis 1. Male and female created together, spit straight from the source, right? She was not a test tube experiment with dust and breath and hoping that it pop off. That wasn't her deal, right? So she said, no, I'm not submitting to this. Like, I'm not submitting to this, right? She flies off, right? So this also indicates that she can ascend and descend at will, which Adam could not, once again, right? So Adam then complains to God, right? God sends 3 of his angels to convince Lilith to come back, right? They found her in the middle of the Red Sea creating babies, right? Once again, she was one of those feminine energies that had the power to create on her own. Anything you went and created on your own without patriarchy, they deemed Luciferian, right? So her babies that she created, they refer to as demons, right? Patriarchy, Christianity, right, will refer to her babies as demons, right? So they tried to force her back, but note, she is stronger than all 3 of the angels that God sent to bring her back, right? Note this. This is a very strong girl that they're trying to make submit. And they cannot make her do it because she is stronger energy than they are, right? This is why you're deemed Luciferian, right? Because they can't make you submit. You submit because you want to, right? So then, let's see, where did I leave off? Okay, so then they try to force her back, but she is stronger than them. So then God get pissed off, and he tell her he will kill 100 of her babies every day, right? So she says, okay, and I shall kill Adam children every day, right? So this is I will put enmity between your children and my children, right? So this is where the original organic beings get into a bloodline beef with the artificial intelligent beings, right? So then God creates a lesser woman from Adam's rib, from out of the same artificial intelligent matter that he's created from, right? And this woman is created automatically to submit. Okay, this is the Eve, right? This is the Eve. So Lilith then leaves and hooks up with who they call Samael, right? Now, this is where you would get the divine masculine and divine feminine coming back into creation together, right? Unity together, because Samael and Lilith, although because she didn't do what so-called Jehovah, Jupiter, wanted her to do, which was ascend with something, like they say, ascend with human beings, right? descend and ascend with human beings, right? And not keep the crown of the gods, right? And not ascend and descend with the crown of the gods, right? So because she refused to do that, now she's known in Luciferian energy, right? So this is all of these stories of feminine energy that's stronger than masculine energy, but because they chose to create on their own, or because they chose to not destroy their creations, because the masculine energy felt threatened, they will coin Luciferian energy, right? Luciferian. Also, and this is going to go into a part 3. I just wanted to get some of this out the way for you guys. Just a few references actually, but I will be wrapping up the whole thing hopefully in the next video, because like I said, and I said it once before, Lucifer will never be as simple as Satan, because women are never as simple as men, right? So you see that meme on social media that says, once you understand why pizza is in a square box cut into a circle, why pizza is in a square box and is shaped into a circle and cut into triangles, then you can try to understand feminine energy, right? It's very complicated. The reason why it's very complicated is because we split so many different ways, right? We are as women. So, and that is not something that just started on planet Earth. Like I said, it's nothing new under the sun. As above, so below, right? So I hope this was good for you guys, gave you some good information, reference points, so we can wrap this thing up next time. I did try to keep it short. It's under an hour. I wanted it shorter than that, but I did have to cover some references for y'all. Y'all be cool. Have a good night.